All right, so welcome everyone to the Clear Admit Inside the MBA Admissions Process webinar series. We're going to start with some quick intros. My name is Graham. I'm the co-founder of Clear Admit, and I'm going to moderate today's session. The structure for the session will be a bunch of roundtable questions, as well as kind of deep dives into our school panelists' application process. And then everyone has agreed, all of our panelists have agreed to stick around to jump into some Zoom breakouts. So just as we've done in the past weeks, you'll be able to hang out at the end and go and ask questions directly to our panelists. Because of that, we don't really do questions during the main webinar here, so you can just hang on to your questions for the end. And also, you can go from one room to another. So if you have questions for schools, you can hit them all at the end by bouncing around. Let's get on with our introductions, though. First up, we have Maria Martinez Madrigal, and she is the Associate Director of Full-Time MBA Admissions at Berkeley's Haas School of Business. Hey, Maria, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Graham. Hello, everyone. Yes, thank you all for being with us today. My name's Maria Martinez Madrigal, she, her pronouns. Excited to connect with you all.
Yeah, excellent. So great to have you. We're also going to hear from Jennifer Lowe, who is Director of Recruitment and Business Development for the MBA, MIM, and ISS programs over at INSEAD. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you very much, Graham, for having me again today. And hello, everyone, and looking forward to sharing more insights about the admissions process with you all today.
Now, are you in Singapore or in France?
Yes. So whoever based in Asia, you have my company.
Okay, there you go. So you're up late too. Appreciate it. We're also going to hear from Alessandra Gazzola. She is the Senior Recruitment and Admissions Manager for the MBA program at London Business School. Hey, Alessandra.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Graham. Thank you for having me today. It's great to be here with you. I'm Alessandra. I'm the Senior Recruitment Admission Manager for the MBA program at LBS, and I'm really looking forward to speaking to all of you and answering all of your questions later on in the breakout room.
Excellent. And there's no way it's that sunny today in London. Your background has got to be a background and not the real weather, because it's not nice here today in France.
It's actually very sunny today here. It's very cold.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
we
right.
are actually in winter. We skipped autumn, but actually it's very sunny. So it's actually kind of true.
All right, excellent. Next up, we're also going to hear today from Andrea McHale. She's the Director of Admissions at Michigan's Ross School of Business. Hey, Andrea.
Hi, Graham. Welcome, everyone. Andrea McHale here. Like Graham said, Director of Admissions for the Ross School. I look forward to being with my colleagues today on the call and then meeting many of you in the breakout room later.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. And finally, we're also going to hear today from Emily Mercer. She's the Assistant Director for MBA Admissions and Student Recruitment at UNC's Kenan-Flagler School of Business. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Graham, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Mercer. I'm super happy, like all my colleagues, to see you all, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, so we're going to dive in. What we're going to do is first, I have a couple of roundtable questions that I wanted to ask our panelists. And we'll just kind of go around, we'll go alphabetically. So we'll start with Maria, but there are essentially two questions that I wanted to ask and get you to weigh in on. The first is, like, how does the admissions process work? Do you use like a rubric to assign scores to key components of the application? So, you're sitting down with a file. Are you like saying, oh, you give them like a grade for their academics or their work experience, or is it more art than science? And then the other thing, if you would give us a quick overview as to how your school conducts admissions interviews, like who does them, how do they get scheduled, and what does the interviewer know about the applicant when they sit down with them?
Yeah, thanks, Graham. With UC Berkeley Haas, I think in general, the MBA admissions is an art and a science. The science gives us, I guess it could be a good starting point, right? Depending on the program, using the science to make sure you're meeting eligibility. So we, require exam scores. Do you have those? It can give us insight into how candidates will be during, or how successful they can be during and post MBA. The science or numbers can be a good starting point, helps us understand things like academic readiness, career progression, as I mentioned, eligibility. At Berkeley Haas, we use a holistic review process. So it is both the science and the art. We deeply value those intangible elements. So the lived experience, the leadership potential, the community involvement. And that's really what helps us create that unique MBA student environment and class. And I hope that for our attendees here that have had the chance to interact with current students, you're able to see that, right? Those conversations are around the art. Yeah, what's your background? What's your experience? How are you, what are you involved with, right? So yeah, they're both, they work together, and how we're able to create that unique and transformative environment. And then,
Okay.
and yeah.
And interviews, curious about that too.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and then in terms of interviews, our interviews are required for admission. They're all conducted by current students or alumni on a volunteer basis. And we offer two formats in a live remote interview and Kira. And Kira are pre-recorded questions. They're the same for both. We don't use a weighted system. So we encourage you to choose whichever format works best with your schedules. You know, you're working full time, you have other responsibilities. So we don't have a preference. The admissions committee does not have a preference. Choose whichever format works for you. But our interviewers are on a volunteer basis. So we cannot offer a live remote interview for every single candidate that is invited.
Mm-hmm. And does the interviewer, have they read your application, or maybe they just have a resume, or what's the situation?
Yeah. Great question. So the interviews do not have access to the application. My advice, good practice, go through your application, review your career goals. Are there any updates you'd like to share? So yeah, they don't see your application. They haven't read about why your MBA, what are your career goals. They only have access to your resume. So it is good practice to go through your application and a little refresher of what you submitted and being prepared to bring that to the interview.
Okay. And one last thing, if I remember correctly, interviews at Berkeley are by invitation only. So they're required to get in, but not everyone is offered an interview, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Let's turn now to Jennifer at INSEAD. Jennifer, same thing, like let us inside the process. Like, is there some kind of a scoring thing when you're trying to look at a candidate's application? Is it art or science or both? And then if you would tell us a little bit about the interview process.
Yeah, sure. I think Maria also covered some important point for INSEAD, and then definitely we looking forward to a very well-rounded and balanced profiles. That said, that means I would say actually both quantitative and the qualitative and the insight from your profile are important. But I won't say I think everything is the most important. That means I think you do need to show that, okay, for academic, the capacity, I think we will look at your academic if you are able to cope with the very rigorous curriculum through the GMAT or GRE score, but you don't really need to have a very high score. What we are looking for is still a balanced score. And also if some candidates, and then they may have a slightly lower quantitative score, and then from GMAT or GRE, then we will go back to check your undergraduate degree, and then if you have actually had some data heavy courses and or your GPA is good enough. And other than that, we're also looking at your current job. There's some people probably they anyway doing a lot of work daily, and then including a lot of data analysis. That would maybe help you to reassure us of your academic capacity. So it's really well-rounded, that part. But when it comes to your personality and also your leadership potential, your international motivation, these probably is very difficult to quantify. But then you need to actually show from your own story, your essay. So even everyone probably trying to show the same 3 points, but when it comes with your own story, your own experience, that will make it your profile is a very unique profile and then to show to us. So I think the admissions process is an art of science, and then but it's just you need to find your own way and then to make it unique and also well rounded. And when it comes to the admissions interview. So admissions interview at INSEAD is very special, I think, because we do have two. So once you pass the first stage and then the shortlisted for interview and you are invited, it's not everyone will be invited for interview who passed the first round, and then you will be invited for the alumni interview. But we will give you 2 alumni contacts, and then you need to go to contact the alumni yourself and then to conduct the interview. Basically, when we arrange the alumni, we will try to find definitely 1 female and 1 male alumni to avoid the bias. So at least it gives us a different perspective. And we also try to find 1 alumni more senior, probably they graduated like more than 6 years to 10 years back. And then the other alumni is likely just graduated probably more than 3 years to 5 years. I think in this way, when you chat with alumni, it's a two-way communication. It's not just about the alumni to evaluate the fit for INSEAD, but also it's a very good opportunity for applicants to understand INSEAD's culture more, and also to understand if you'll be a good fit for the community. So when you chat with the alumni, you will not just understand how the program can bring to you, but probably in the long run, after 10 years, what's the real value and impact of the MBA. So I think definitely a lot of candidates, actually, they're looking forward to the admissions interview because they want to chat with the alumni.
Yeah, and actually, just to underline that, I think INSEAD might be the only school that does it this way, where there are 2 interviews. And my understanding is they're equal. It's not like they're different. It's just 2 different experiences that you get to have
Yes.
with 2 different alums. So that's something to note. Let's move right along. Alessandra, tell us a little bit about LBS. Is there, a scoring system when you're looking at applications, and then the interview process too?
Yes, thank you, Ram. So I think my colleagues have covered quite a bit already. At LBS, it's a bit the same. So we don't have a scoring system per se, also a rubric of a matrix. We're looking for well-balanced applications that are well-rounded and complete. So both from a quantifiable aspect, and then in the intangible aspect of the application. So good balance and good mix. We do have an holistic process when we review applications. So we do consider every aspect of the application. And as we don't have this scoring system, it's not the one part has more value versus others. However, LBS is a very personal school. It's very collaborative. It's very particular in its community. So we do put a lot of emphasis into reading the essays and finding out why a candidate wants to join LBS, why he thinks it's good, they think they are a good fit for LBS, and why they think we are a good fit for them as well, because it needs to be a match on both sides. So we do put a lot of emphasis into that, and into looking at their finding out about their personalities, hobbies, what they do outside of work, of course, on top of everything else, like work experience and so on. So we do try to find a balance between the two, but as I said, we do look as well, like my colleagues, for well-balanced applications, complete applications, and that one side completes the other. Having said all of this, of course, it is very competitive to get into all of our schools. So of course, the test scores, so the GMAT, GRE, are still important. So a strong score obviously can make, in some specific cases, the difference. So I always recommend candidates to really try to tell us their stories, but at the same time to try really to get a good score in the GMAT or the GRE, because at the end of the day, it is very competitive. It's a very competitive process. So, having strong credential always help. And also in the future, when they're going to be doing recruitment for employment, so it's always good. Some companies do look at the test score, so it is really good to have them anyway. Regarding the interviews, so at LBS, we also use alumni interviewers for our candidates interview. Alumni volunteers as well to do interviews for us. And they do it we usually have them like regularly. So we have some regular interviewers that have done it for 20 years, some newer ones, but we always provide some training, some guidance for them to do it. At LBS, we only have one interview, so we don't run two, but our interview is maybe a little bit longer. It usually lasts between an hour and a half to 2 hours. So sometimes it runs also a little bit like even over the 2 hours mark, because usually alumni want really to get to know the candidates really well. So conversations really carries on. And then again, it's an opportunity like INSEAD for candidates to ask questions to the alumni. So to ask questions to someone who has done the program firsthand. So and that part is very important. So again, it's good for candidates to go prepared to the interview with some relevant questions for an alum that has done the program, has gone through the process, and then is graduated and had maybe some experience after, so they can really talk with them about the whole stages of the application process, student experience, and then alumni community. What I will say, so how we run the interview match is very personal, very personalized. We have a group of regional managers that once candidates are selected for interview, will get to work and find alumni interviewers in the location where the candidate, where a specific candidate are, so candidates don't have to travel. In some cases, we do accept virtual interviews, so if an in-person interview is not possible, that's absolutely fine. However, the in-person interview can give a different vibe, so we always recommend, where possible, to have in-person interviews. And as I say, the match between alumni and candidate is very personal, so we will match candidates with an alum that has a similar background than them, or the work in an industry that the candidate is targeting after MBA, so that they can have some commonalities and the discussions can be really rich, and that the candidate can get out with some useful insights and tips for the rest of his journey, for their journey.
All right, excellent. Let's turn now to Andrea at Michigan Ross. Yeah, tell us how you guys look at it, art, science, and then just briefly on the interviews too.
Yeah, I think very similar to what my colleagues have just shared in terms of how we assess candidates. I think a couple points that stood out to me that I haven't been covered yet is that anything that we're asking on this application is important to our program. So all areas of your application are going to be assessed during this process. At Ross, we have a holistic review process, and we have multiple evaluation points that from the time that you submit to the time decisions are made. So right now, we have round one, and we're going through that first eval, where a full evaluation will be done on all of our applicants. Based on that, we do is somewhat of a rubric, but we then calibrate in terms of by invitation, extending the evaluative interview to our applicant pool. And at that point, our interviews are conducted by either alumni or now current students, and in the very rare occasion, an admissions officer. So just that's important to keep in mind, that you will know who your interviewer is, and they will have a semi-blind assessment of who you are, and they will just have your resume. So when you meet with them, you may be meeting with an alum that is very seasoned or relatively new within their career, or a current student. So when you think about the questions that you're going to ask and the interactions that you may have, you do want to tailor it to the interviewer that's interviewing you. At that point, once the interview concludes, we have a second evaluation. So it's another full evaluation, and an assessment is made. And then we go into admissions committee, which is a group of individuals that is looking at all of those components and then making decisions to make sure that we remove any bias, that we do a holistic review and make that assessment. So my final point is, it is an art and a science, but you're also being assessed amongst the competitiveness of the applicant pool in itself too. So that's an important factor to keep in mind.
I just wanted to say that I love the fact that you're mentioning the idea that, know who you're sitting down with. I mean, that's why we have that question here, sort of like, who's going to interview you? Because I really think that when you go into that discussion, Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting down with an alum from Ross, or maybe with a current student at Haas or something, like you need to know who you're talking to, and it really can be helpful because you might have different questions for them, or different things that you want to share. Emily, you've been really patient as we've gone through the alphabet here. Tell us a little bit how things are done at UNC Kenan-Flagler.
Yeah, excuse me. I don't have much to add for that first question. I definitely agree with everyone. It's a mixture of the art and the science. We do a holistic, individualized approach and look at all aspects of your application. For the second part of your question, ours is a little bit different than our peers. Ours are conducted by members of the full-time admissions staff. So whether it be members of the admissions committee or part-time members of our team who are readers or interviewers also help us. But I think one of the good things to know is that for our interviewers, they do have access to your application. The only thing they don't have access to is your test scores, to eliminate the bias of seeing any type of standardized score. But other than that, they do see your resume. They have a chance to read your essays, so you can come in knowing that they will have context. And that's by design to hopefully have more conversation than what's already that you have provided within your application. Ours, you can be done in person or virtually. Virtually is definitely more common these days, but it's really geared to be a conversation where we want to get to know more about you more about us, and a chance for each of us to get a chance to assess the fit for us, whether you're a good applicant and a candidate for our school, and for you, if our school is a good fit for you.
Excellent. Yeah. So I appreciate you mentioning this idea. We talked about, well, it's important to know who interviews you, but it's also really important to know, what do they know about you? Because going into a UNC interview, you're not going to just be introducing yourself from scratch. They've read your essays. They know a lot about you. So you're going to need to go a layer deeper in many instances, and just sort of share those types of things. Whereas if you're going to just have a totally blind interview where the person just gets your resume, you're kind of starting from scratch, and all the things that you said in your application, you can sort of reuse. But it's really important to know that going in. Otherwise, you might not have a great experience, or not be ready, I guess, is the main thing. All right. So let's turn to our next segment. I do want to just remind our panelists we're running a little bit over time, so we'll try to get back on schedule here. But what we're going to do now, this is actually my favorite part of the webinar. We're going to go school by school and learn a little bit about your application process. And the idea here is, I'd love for each of you to share something a little bit different about your application process. Just one thing, whether it's an essay question that's a bit quirky, or a way that you interview, or a video component that's required, or even a short answer in your application form. Just one thing that you want our audience to know about as they kind of engage or embark on your admissions process. And then I may have some follow-ups for you as a result. So we'll go back to Maria at Berkeley. Haas, what's something you want to share about the Haas admissions process?
Yes, thanks, Graham. So if you are familiar with Berkeley Haas, you may know that we're a values-driven school. We have our defining leadership principles. Kudos to anyone that can name all four, but for the sake of time, I won't during this call. And I hope you feel inspired by them. But in our evaluation process, we are looking for evidence of alignment with our defining leadership principles. And so ways that I encourage you to prepare is familiarize yourself with them, reflect on them, and think about how they show up either in your personal or professional experiences. Don't feel like you need to speak to each defining leadership principle. I'd rather you take a natural, organic approach. If you are noticing a theme with like our student always, definitely highlight that. But remember that they come through in different areas of your application, in your essay, in your letters of recommendation, even your interview, extracurricular activities. But what we're really, like I said, we're looking for is alignment, and that you are familiar with them, and understand our community, our values, and our culture.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're talking about this, because I feel like sometimes you see on the internet people kind of poo-pooing this idea that, oh, schools all have missions and they just put that up on their website. It's just lip service, right? But I found that every school that we've ever talked to and every admissions team that I've gotten to know, it really does matter. You're putting this up on your website for a reason, and you're looking for candidates to be aware of the values and to demonstrate fit. So really good advice. I appreciate you kind of sharing that, because I think sometimes candidates don't bother to read all that stuff. Now, you guys put those principles in the preamble to the essay questions in the form, so it'd be hard for people to miss them, I think, but hopefully they're paying close attention. I did want to ask you a question about something else in your file, in the application. So you have this, what used to be an essay that's called What Makes You Feel Alive and Why. And this year it's a video. So literally the person has to go online and kind of answer that question, but it is in video format. And I was kind of wondering, is this like just a nice way for you to get to see everyone and have that sort of gauge their communication skills? Or is it also driven by the use of artificial intelligence? Or is it just, like what's prompting this switch from a written assignment to a video assignment?
Yeah, well, I think it can be a mix of both. I think the video essay, well, first the essays, it's the first place where we hear from the candidate. We hear what they care about, we hear their passion, their motivation. So learning about what drives you, what motivates you, what puts you in that flow, helps me see how you will contribute and add to our community. And yeah, we are looking to assess with the video essay, right? This is business school, your storytelling, your presentation, communication skills, all of those are important in the business world. And with the use of AI, I think it's important to know that you may be using AI. And if you are, it could be, again, a starting point, but I would encourage you to not use it to tell your whole story, right? Because in this space, we're trying to get to know the individual, and this a live essay in video format, it is humanizing the process, that it's not just an AI tool writing your application. It's real people sharing their lived experiences, sharing what empowers them and motivates them. So I personally really love that not only do I get to hear from the applicant, but I get to see them, and it humanizes this entire process.
Okay. Yeah. Terrific. I appreciate you commenting on that. I just was something interesting that caught my eye this year. Let's turn now to Jennifer at INSEAD. Jennifer, what's like one piece of the application process at INSEAD that you want us to know a little bit more about?
Yeah, I think I did think about this question a lot, but to be honest, I think all the school probably the admissions process are pretty similar, because I think it's all that we just want to have the best talent. So I think when it comes to admissions process, I don't think there's anything super special. And then for INSEAD, and also all the essay questions that we also post online. But one thing I think I do agree is that every school has its own culture. And when you apply to any MBA program, the first step is always, I think, to understand what you are looking for and which school and then will be the best fit for yourself. So I think from there, I guess you can basically crack all the admissions. And then, so if I would mention for INSEAD, I think the most important thing is definitely you need to have a global mindset and be open-minded, because one of the requirements for us is the international motivation. So international motivation doesn't mean that you definitely need to live abroad or study abroad, but it's very much about how you are able to react in a culturally sensitive way. Because once you join INSEAD, you are sitting in a class, your classmates, they are working or studying and then in more than 70, 80 countries before they join INSEAD. So and then the way of thinking and the habits can be very different. So we also want that you are culturally sensitive, but in the meantime, you're willing to share your experience and always have always willing to collaborate and support each other.
Okay. Terrific. Now I have a very specific question for you too about the application. You guys have a video component too, which happens after someone applies, right? So they fill out the main application, and then I think it's that they have like sort of 48 hours or something to do this kind of video component. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that is and how someone might get ready for it?
Yeah, sure. So video interview actually part of our online application. And yes, you do have actually 48 hours after the round deadline to prepare for that. But don't forget, actually, if you submit your online application early, you'll have more time. So we always encourage candidates to submit early. But no matter how many times we try, we see that everyone just submit last minute. That's why more than 50% of the candidates, they do only have 48 hours. The tips I will give is really, I think, try to have a little bit more time to prepare for that, and never try to remember any answers, because you will not come across the same question when you practice. But you do have the chance to practice, and then on the Kira forum. So what we try to understand is really the real you, how you communicate, how you interact with people. And also a very important thing is that we want to see you are very confident and then in front of the camera, because imagine if even in front of the camera you are not confident enough to share your idea, it's very difficult for us to be convinced that in the future you're sitting in a class with people actually come from 60, 70 countries. You'll be confident to speak up and share your experience with others, because at INSEAD, the learning experience from your peers is equally important.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate you like sort of talking us through that. I think you're right. Candidates, and actually, if there's one tip we can leave people with today, it's that if you're applying in round 2, don't submit the application in the final like 12 hours of the due date. I mean, if you can, just get it ready before, if only because there might be a lot of other people going to the school's website at that time to submit, and you just don't want to leave things for the last minute. And in the case of INSEAD, if you submit earlier, you'll have more time to get ready and do these video interview questions. And also great advice about not being scripted. Let's turn to Alessandra. Take us through something at London Business School that's unique in your process, just kind of one aspect, and I might have a follow-up for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of pretty unique aspect of our application process is perhaps the fact that we ask candidates to do a short presentation during their interview with our alumni interviewers. I think that is pretty unique. I don't think there are many other peer schools that do that. And as I said, so candidates are asked there and then to create this, to do a short presentation, so to present something on a specific topic that the alum interviewer chooses for them. The topics can vary, are usually about like things that are happening in the world in that moment in time, or like stories that have been in the news recently. But as a warning, they do change round around, so we don't just use the same for the whole cycle. So you might find the past presentation topics online, but they are never the same, so there will be a change. So basically the alum will choose this topic, and then they will ask the candidate to prepare. So candidates usually have about 5 minutes to prepare, and then 5 minutes to present on this topic. How to best prepare for this? So I always recommend candidates to look at the news, to read the news, read newspapers, or read online. Keep up to date what's happening around the world, because we do take those topics from current news, but we do also use research from our faculty as base for our presentation topics. Sometimes, I don't know, we have this publication thing at LBS, and a lot of faculty sometimes publish articles in there, so we use those also as a kind of a base. So just read the news, read our website, find out about what our faculty does, the research, and then I'm sure you will be fine. We basically, similar to what Jennifer said, we are also looking at to see how candidates think on the spot. So how do you react? How do you come up with ideas? How you handle your ground if you are challenged? Because maybe the alum will think differently, will give different opinions, or will disagree with you. So we want to see how you react in this situation, and how you can put together your thoughts, how you can present, and so on. Although we do not put too much emphasis on how you present. So on the polishness of it, because we know that some candidates might be more, they might be more used to present and some other less. And anyway, this is something that a business school you can definitely redefine and polish up. So we really look more about the thinking. Because also at LBS classes are very lively, and quite often students are asked to answer questions or give their ideas, their opinions there and then. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I think you're right. This is the only school that I know of that does something like that. So it is somewhat unique. I have not heard of another program where in the middle of the interview, there's a sort of pause to give somebody a quick assignment, and then they do a little presentation. I have, in talking to you and some of the other team members at LBS, heard though that the questions it's not like rocket science. This isn't a consulting interview where you're given some like really crazy sort of issue to solve. It's much more broad. So I just would say, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Alessandra, but I would say don't worry about the questions, although it sounds like great advice to stay up to date on current events and maybe read some of the LBS publications. But it's not about the question so much as it is about your ability to kind of think through something over those 5 minutes and then make a quick sort of presentation of your thoughts. Is that accurate?
Yes, 100%. That's absolutely. That is correct.
All right. Excellent. All right. Well, I'm glad that you're willing. I know that was kind of I thought that was always like sort of a secret that you guys did that.
Yeah,
it is a little bit of
but
a secret, right? I mean, it's not.
It was a bit of a secret, but now I think it's out there. So
it's out
really
there.
public
All right.
knowledge. But yeah, we try to keep it quiet because I think candidates kind of sometimes freak out. And that's why I try to reiterate to don't worry. Just, I mean, this is the only way in which you can prepare, because you never know which topic you will get. So.
Sure. All right. Appreciate that. Let's turn to Andrea at Michigan Ross. Andrea, what's something that you want to highlight about the process at Ross?
Sorry, I have had an error message come up. I'm good now. Sorry about that, Graham. So I think a couple things. One, really quick, we have extended our standardized test offerings to accept both the executive assessment and the DET, so the Duolingo English test. So we just want to really make sure that we're increasing accessibility as much as we can in any way that we can. And then the next is we keep retooling our essays. And this year we have 2 required essay prompts from 3 down to 2. And we've extended that first prompt to have a 300-word limit. We've been known to have very, very short or small amount of word limits for our essays. And that one, we really want to understand not only your career aspirations, but why Ross. We have an action-based learning principle around our pedagogical overview of how we provide resources, curriculum, and support to our students. And we want to make sure that our applicants understand that and can thrive in that type of environment. So that's really the rationale as to why that change occurred within our essay.
So digging a little bit into the essays specifically, I wanted to ask you a question about, I think it's the second essay where you require applicants to pick from these different prompts. They can pick one to answer. But the thing that jumps out at me is it says, I just got to read this out. Please choose one of the following prompts to tell us more about what makes you stand out beyond your academic and work experience. And that jumps out at me because I'm kind of curious to know what made you decide to put that emphasis away from, I think most people applying to business school are thinking, oh, I have to share my best and greatest kind of accolades and experiences at work. And you're kind of saying, or maybe, in the classroom, and you're saying, tell us about other stuff that you do. So where's that coming from?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, this is an essay prompt. We don't have a video essay component to ours where we start to understand the applicant from like the values they have, the motivation, the ambitions, the heart and the grit too that comes with these essay prompts. And in application reviews, we really want to paint a whole picture of the applicant, and this gives us a window into who you are as an individual, and really that helps us throughout the entire application process. The only other aspect of your application we get to see this in slightly is within that interview, but this is a way for us to see that earlier in that review process.
Okay. And I think one thing that's interesting is that in the instructions that you give in the application for the resume, there's also a call to include community service activities and hobbies and interests aside from education and work experience. So sounds like you guys are very consistently asking for this sort of holistic picture of the candidate.
Yes.
Excellent.
And Ross,
All right.
again, action-based learning, it's learning by doing. And in order to do that, we really need active participants in our programs, in our community. That's a way to showcase that.
Got it. All right. Emily, let's turn to you at UNC Kenan-Flagler. Tell us about something that you want us to know more about when it comes to the application process.
Yeah, for sure. So for us, we have a brand new video essay component for our application, and we are anticipating a lot of questions about it since it is the first time that we are kind of rolling this out. But the intention behind it is really to personalize the application. We really wanted to get to know our candidates outside of just your essays. It's also a great way for us to look at your communication skills, executive presence, and a way also for you to think on your feet. So for a little bit more context with our video essay, you'll be given 2 prompts. One of them, it will be the same for everyone. So hot off the press here, I don't think this is on our website, is the first question that everyone will receive is pretty much just a tell us about yourself, introduce yourself. And the second question is a random question from a bank of questions. And they're very behavior-based, typical things you would see in like a first round interview. And you have 120 seconds to respond to both prompts. So you can split up that time however you choose or whatever you think fits the best. So you can split it equally. If you want to tell us more about yourself, then your second question, but you really get to determine how you want to divvy up that time. One of the things that I think is important to know is you will have a chance to test this platform. In fact, it will force you to do a test before you do the real thing. And if you do a test and you're like, actually, I don't want to do this today, and you go back in a week later to do it, you will have to redo the test again. So we have a lot of fail safes in place to make sure that it will work. You will get 1 reattempt if you do not like your first attempt, but please note that your second question will change. This again is us to get a chance to see you to think on your feet, as well as, in brutal honesty, combating AI, right? We want to make sure that we are getting your true thoughts as well. So you will be able to redo it, but just note if you redo it and you liked your first attempt better, it actually deletes itself. We have no way of going back and getting it, so be thoughtful about when you're doing it. Make sure you're dedicating a time of sitting down and going into a room, telling friends, family, hey, I'm going to be doing this, please leave me alone. But I think that is something we're really looking forward to in this year's application process.
Yeah. And you now have just reminded me of the fact that, I think each of the schools joining us today have some piece that's video in their application, if memory serves. And I think what's so interesting about that is when I worked in admissions many, many years ago, that wasn't even an option for us. And I think it's so interesting because I had to deal with just paper. I was looking at applications, not applicants. And I think the beauty of video is that it really does allow, and it's so easy now to make. Everyone has in their pocket a video camera, right? So super easy to do. And I think it's great. It gives you guys such a different set of insights into candidates. I did want to ask you one follow-up, Emily, about the Kenan-Flagler application. And I was doing an AMA yesterday and the same kind of topic came up. And in your application, you guys asked candidates if they would be willing to share a link to their LinkedIn profile. And it's an optional question. They don't have to. But this came up yesterday in a conversation I was having where people were sort of like, do I need to clean up my social media presence? Should my LinkedIn profile be up to date? And just tell me a little bit, why do you ask this question in the application?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I want to say it is optional. There is no drawback or really benefit to including it. It really kind of is a space where if we were to have questions maybe about something that is in your application that might be unclear, maybe it's work experience, it's just an extra avenue for us to go through and look at. In all honesty, I would say most of them we actually don't end up clicking on because it's kind of there. It's not included in kind of as our evaluation evaluation process. Since it is optional, we're never going to weigh two candidates and look at their two different LinkedIn profiles and say this one is better than another, or this person did include it or did not include it. It's really a way also for when students are admitted, we have a way where students can connect with one another given those LinkedIns that they provided us with. So it's not much, doesn't have as much to do with the evaluation process. There are times where we have leaned on it to look at something to see if there was an inconsistency, to see if we could figure out an answer to a question. But largely there's no drawback or benefit really to including it or not.
Okay. All right. Appreciate you shedding some light there. We have one more segment that we want to get through, and that's our lightning round. And what I'm going to do is we have 3 lightning round questions, but I'm going to ask each of you to do all 3 of them so that we can kind of be speedy here. And so what we'll do is we'll go back to the top of the alphabet, and we'll start with Maria at Haas. I did want to remind everyone who's joined us today that our panelists are going to stick around once we get done with the lightning round. They're going to bounce into some Zoom breakouts. So if you have questions for our admissions reps from any of the schools today, you can hang out, jump into the breakouts. We'll get you those links as soon as we wrap up this next section. So stay tuned. All right, so we're going to start with Maria. The first question is, and I just want quick kind of answers on these, but what is the best place to eat near or on campus at Haas?
Wow, it's hard to just give you a quick response, but a new place, Roast and Toast, that's near campus, Booza Arabic ice cream. That has been my treat at the end of the day. So good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I recommend if you're ever in
All
Berkeley.
right. Cool. All right. Next question for you is just one piece of general application advice for today's attendees that maybe something we haven't talked about or.
I would say, I mean, our panelists shared about submitting a well-balanced application. So leaning into that, as use your application as a portfolio of different things that you've done and aim at providing clarity, consistency, and connect the dots for the admissions committee.
All right. Yeah, we love to say, don't make the admissions reader play detective. Like everything should be pretty easy for them to follow, from your work experience to the dates, everything to be consistent. All right. Final lightning round question for you, Maria, is in honor of both LBS and Michigan have these kind of questions about what make you unique and things. So just like, what's something that makes you unique?
I think being my authentic self makes me unique and bringing my lived experience. There's no one out there in the world like me. So that's what I'll say, just being my authentic self.
All right. Excellent. All right. Now let's turn to Jennifer. Same 3 questions. You can pick whichever campus you want, but since you're in Singapore, maybe something near the INSEAD Singapore campus, place you like to eat.
Yes, I think I was just gonna answer. I think in Fontainebleau, I think our canteen is super good because you get a lot of variety of dessert. But if you're really a foodie and you want to have so many different types of food, come to Singapore, okay? You'll be surrounded by a lot of good food. And then and the second question is the general application advice. For today's, I think it's the same advice. Okay, don't wait till the last minute. Because I think it's a rolling basis. We do want to read your application earlier, so we don't need to wait till the last day to process so many applications together.
All right, excellent. And then the final thing is just something that makes you unique.
Makes INSEAD unique, right?
No, makes you unique. You, Jennifer.
What makes me unique? I think, that part, I really cannot think of anything. I'm so unique. I think I'm just a normal human being, as many candidates here, but you always can find something you are very passionate about. And it's just like me in the same industry for, I think, 15 years. And then I'm still enjoying my work every day.
Oh, excellent. All right. Terrific. Let's turn to Alessandra at London Business School, somewhere you love to eat near LBS's campus.
Yeah, I struggle to think about one. But actually we have just redeveloped one of the buildings on campus, and there is new cafeteria in there, and it is actually delicious. It's so good, and they have variety of everything, hot food, sandwiches and things. So that is actually so good. And me being Italian and obsessed with coffee, the coffee is also great. So I will highly recommend that one.
Okay.
Then the second question about general advice, I will echo what Jennifer said. Don't wait until the last minute to submit your application. Do apply a little bit earlier to avoid any tech congestions in there. But also, I will really recommend candidates that are here with us today to really be unique and be themselves when they submit their application, when they write their essays. It is very important that we get to know you, who you are, and know who you think you should be, or we want you to be, because we want to be able to help you. We want to be able to have a great experience at business school, and we can only do that if we really know you and your motivations.
Okay.
And then the last
And
one, what makes
yeah,
makes me unique? That's an interesting one. But so I'm a big horsey person. I love horses, and I'm a rider and everything. But I lately started also to take carriage driving lessons with some friends, and it has been a new world in itself. So I think that's pretty weird, and maybe not so unique, but a bit weird about myself. Yeah.
like carriage, like the horses are pulling the carriage and you're
Yes,
guiding.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And then from there,
Oh, wow.
there is a whole sport behind there. So you do like kind of all
Yes.
trails
Oh,
and
wow.
things. So that is, yeah, that's quite interesting. I didn't expect it to be so funny, but it's actually amazing, and we're having a lot of fun. So I would recommend
right.
anyone interested to try it.
All right, excellent. Andrea, let's turn to you. How about a favorite place to eat on or near the campus at Ross?
So I have three that came to mind. One, if you've never been to Ann Arbor, Zingerman's Deli is world famous, so you'd have to stop there. And then if you ever want to see admissions officers in the real world after a big event, we typically go to Miss Kim's in Carytown, which is like Asian fusion, tapas, small plates, and then also Black Pearl, which is really, they have very good cocktails and seafood dishes.
Oh, wow. All right, excellent. We get 3 for the price of 1 here. What's your general admissions advice?
I think this is the process you're going through right now is a very reflective process. You're taking a deep look into you, your career, your aspirations. I think just be confident in who you are and how you're going to represent yourself.
Okay. Yeah, terrific advice. And then something that makes you unique.
Oh my goodness. All right. So I chat GPT'd this. So I am left-handed, blonde and green-eyed. So it was 0.004% of the world's population. But if I was going to pick one as an essay, I would talk about my being left-handed because I've always had to be adaptable my entire life. It's meant for a right-handed world. And so I think that's something I could tie into an essay.
Interesting. All right. Excellent idea. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Let's turn to Emily, and we'll go through these with you. Anywhere that you love to eat in Chapel Hill?
Yeah, there's this place called Sutton's. It's actually located within like a pharmacy. So bear with me. I know that sounds super weird, but it's really, really interesting. They have great food. It's also a Chapel Hill staple. So they have like Michael Jordan. There are pictures all over the place of celebrities and student athletes who have gone pro, who have come to take pictures there, and actors and actresses that come to the area. So not only is it good food, but it's also a fun experience as well.
Oh, excellent. All right. How about a piece of application advice?
Yeah, mine would be for no matter what program you're applying to, and when you're writing their essays, have someone that you know and someone that you don't, that doesn't really know you as well, read your essays. And then see if they can tell you what the prompt was. So that way you know you're answering the question. And I think it's good to have 2 different perspectives of someone you know and someone you don't know, because they can really, because we don't know you, right? But someone who does know you can tell you the things that you're highlighting that do speak to who you are.
I love that advice, this idea that give the essay to someone and see if they can tell you what the question was, because so often I think people veer off course, and that's a really helpful piece. I also would caution, mom and dad are great. They love you, but sometimes they're not the best, or even siblings at like reading your stuff and saying, oh no, they're going to probably say, wow, this is fantastic. You're great. We love you. You're going to get in, when maybe having someone who's a little bit more willing to be critical is important. Last one for you, Emily. What's something that makes you unique?
Yeah, maybe not unique to people on this call since we have a lot of people internationally, but I'm the first living in the US. I'm the first person in my family that could be elected president because I'm the only one that was born in the US.
Oh,
All
wow.
family, they all either still live in England or my parents moved here in the late 80s. So for living in the US and being a citizen, I think that's pretty unique.
Awesome. All right. Now, someone posted in the chat, they want to know what makes me unique. So I will just share very briefly that I, for many years, had a secret second life as a musician. I mean, I still play music, but I, went on tour and played rock shows in terrible, tiny little punk rock clubs. So that's something unique about me. What we're going to do now is I want to invite our panelists to step backstage, but I first want to say thank you so much, Andrea, Alessandra, Jennifer, Emily, and Maria. It's been so great having you join me and talk through all of this. We're going to send you backstage as we set up your Zoom breakouts. So I'll invite you to do that now. Everyone else, stay with me for a minute. We're just going to give our panelists a second to grab a drink of water and also just to create the Zoom breakouts so that we can let you jump into them. But in the meantime, I do want to thank everyone. I don't know if any of you have been coming week in and week out for these past 3 weeks, but I've had so much fun hosting these. And I just want to remind everyone that there are all these really good resources over at clearadmit.com. We have an amazing tool called ApplyWire where you can kind of post about your, your profile. We also have this tool called Livewire where you can kind of keep up to date on everything that's happening in MBA admissions. People share their decisions, where they're getting interviews, and there's all kinds of data in there, and you can sort so that if you're applying to a given school, you can just look at that school's results and just sort of stay on top of everything that's going on. And as many of you have heard me talk about on our podcast, we have this great AI tool that we built over the last year with a massive large language model that's all based on ClearAdmit's kind of intel over the years and all the conversations we've had like today with admissions officers. There's an interview archive on our website. There are just so many things and all of it's free. So I really encourage you all to head over to clearadmit.com, create an account. It's free, register on the site. You'll get access to so much more than if you're just browsing as a kind of visitor. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone joining us. The breakouts are going to open up in a second. One other thing is we do air a podcast every Monday. If you're missing these kind of events, you can at least tune in on Mondays and hear a little bit about MBA admissions. I do a podcast with my colleague, Alex Brown. It's a lot of fun. It's available on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Every Monday, new episodes come out. And then finally, yeah, just know that you can go into the breakouts as soon as we open up those rooms, and you can go to talk to more than one school. You have to go one at a time, but you can go ask a question of, over at Michigan Ross and with Andrea, and then bounce over and talk to Jennifer at INSEAD or Maria at Berkeley, wherever you want to go. You can bounce around, and folks our panelists will stick around for at least a half an hour or so to address your questions. Again, thanks so much, everyone. We're going to open up the breakouts. If you're using Zoom in a web browser, you might need to switch to the app in order to access the breakouts. I don't know if the latest web version is working with breakouts, but everyone else using the regular version of Zoom, it should be totally fine. And yeah, we'll open up the breakouts now. Thanks so much, everyone, and hope to see you all real soon.